A century ago, Cecil Rhodes's pioneer column marched north into the cool and fertile valleys of Mashonaland. The colony that bore his name was founded on a wholesale land grab by British settlers. It went on for more than 50 years, and the independent nation of Zimbabwe is still wrestling with its consequences. Like millions of other Zimbabweans, Ephraim Yakajura and his family just scratch a living on an overcrowded plateau. The soil is thin and sandy here, but Ephraim remembers the valley where he grew up. Rich land, well watered, with space to spare, and the day in 1944 when British soldiers came to take it.
I was very, very unhappy. In my heart, I felt it was the end of the world. I was born on that land, and where I was sent, I felt like a slave or a foreigner from another country. We didn't even know where we were going. So that's how we felt. We really suffered.
Well, I don't know what he means by others. If he means I'm others, then I'd be interested to know what I am. I'm a Zimbabwean, born and bred. I was born here, lived here all my life, made a commitment to this country. How can you actually say to somebody, I'm going to buy your farm by law. The law says I've got to pay you for it, but I haven't got any money, so actually I'm not going to pay you for it. Now, have we got a government that's above its own law?
I mean, surely they're right when they say that it is not politically acceptable to continue to have 4,500 mostly white commercial farmers owning more than 50% of Zimbabwe when you've got 9 million or 12 million on the poverty line.
To start with, yes, sure, there's injustice. I don't deny that. There's also, and that's why I support the need for a properly structured, organized, funded land resettlement and reform program, agrarian reform. Nobody's opposed to that. It's in the interest of the country.
Why did it take so long?
To
come forth with this deal to compensate the country?
In respect of land acquired for acquisition, it had to be on a willing buyer, willing seller basis. So you go to a farmer and say, we want your farm for a land reform. And if he says no, that's it. He says yes, fine, you acquire it. And that way, you will not acquire land in a manner which would enable you to have, entities of land knit together. So you could then attach them to the communal area and get people resettled properly and efficiently. You'd get one farm here, another farm very far away. So we couldn't amend this until some, they said 10 years had passed by, you see. So we had to buy the Constitution. So we didn't tear up the Constitution, could have done that and said, it offends against the interests of the people. But we said, no, let's bide our time. 10 years, we will soon come by.
However, in 1997, British Prime Minister Tony Blair stopped funding the Lancaster Agreement. 3 years later, the Zimbabwean Parliament authorized the resettlement of thousands of landless blacks on previously white-owned farms. What was the deal they reneged on, Mr. President?
That Britain would pay compensation. That is what we agreed upon with Lord Carrington. They were also supported in regard to that by the Carter administration, and America committed itself to giving substantial amounts, as they said, towards land reform, and this money could be used for purposes of compensating the farmers.
What happened?
We reached the 10 years and we amended the Constitution So acquisition now had to be in the national interest. That's all. That was in the national interest. And if we decided land, it was in the national interest that we acquire your land. Fine. Then we would work out what compensation is desired. And that naturally would be a burden for Britain to pay. We would, as we still are doing, pay you for the developments and improvements on your farm. That was our burden. But Britain had to pay the market price of the farm. And this is what these guys reneged on Blair, number 10 Downing Street. And that's the cause of the quarrel. And we said, if you renege on that, well, we cannot ourselves pay that compensation. It is your responsibility. We will continue to pay the farmer compensation for the improvements that he has effected on the farm. But we will acquire the land. So, fine, keep your money. We will take our land. It's not just personal sanctions, as they say. That's very dishonest of them to say so. When they say their personal sanctions, what they do behind scenes is to go to countries and say, you were giving credit lines, please stop doing that. They even, in some cases, were intercepting, you know, the ships carrying our oil from Kuwait IPG and from also Libya. They would actually send people to say, we will pay you, you know, much more than the Zimbabwe is going to pay you for this shipment. You see, and that. But you know, the United States has been very blatant about it. And the message out there to our partners was that doing business with Zimbabwe was risky. So, and also the interference with the international organization, IMF and the World Bank. And they would actually tell them not to do anything. We had a meeting of the two in Dar es Salaam. Both of them came to us and said, there is no way we can extend facilities to you without a nod from number 10 Downing Street and White House.
We're going to make the economy scream, said Nixon.